Okay, Chapter 6-8 is Solve Equations by Factoring. It's also known as finding the x-intercepts of the quadratic or finding the roots. So x-intercepts and roots mean the same thing. So on the CST, a lot of times they'll ask to find the x-intercepts or they'll ask to find the roots. Okay, on this example 0, okay, if we have a times b times 0, the answer is going to be 0. And it doesn't matter if the 0 is the first number, the second number, or the last number. When you're multiplying a set of 3 numbers, as long as one of them is 0, the answer is going to be 0. Or you can have a times 0 times b. Again, the position of the 0 doesn't matter. As long as one of the factors is 0, then the whole thing is 0. Okay, so what we're learning today, solving equations by factoring, is known as the zero product property. Example 1, 5x plus 1 times x minus 7 equals 0. Based on zero product property, it doesn't matter if the first one is 0 or the second one is 0. As long as one of these two factors is 0, then the whole thing is 0. So there are going to be two answers for this. We have an answer for the 5x plus 1, and we'll have an answer for the x minus 7. So on the first one, this first factor, 5x plus 1, can equal 0, or the second factor, x minus 7, can equal 0. That's the first factor, that's the second factor. So now we just solve for x. Okay, here we take away 1, you get 5x equals negative 1, divide by 5, and the answer is x equals negative 1/5. That's our first answer. Or the second factor can equal 0. So on the second one, we add 7. Okay, so x equals 7 is our second answer. If you plug negative 1/5 in here, 5 times negative 1/5 is negative 1. Negative 1 plus 1 is 0. If you plug the 7 back in here, 7 minus 7 is 0. So those are the two answers where you can get an answer of 0. Example 2, x times quantity 2x minus 9 equals 0. Okay, again we have two answers. This can be 0 or this can be 0. So x can be 0 and 2x minus 9 can equal 0. So you're going to add 9 and then divide by 2. So x equals 9 over 2 is one of the answers, and x equals 0 is another. Okay, on example 3, it's not factored yet. So in example 1 and example 2, it was already in parentheses, so you can just find the two answers that work. From example 3, 4, 5, and 6, you have to put it into parentheses, so you have to find the product and then make it equal 0, factor it, and then find the answers. So if you look at example 3, it's x squared minus 8x equals negative 16. it doesn't equal 0 yet, and it's not factored. So you're going to bring the negative 16 to the left side. So now it's x squared minus 8x plus 16 equals 0. Okay, then you're going to see if it's got a greatest common factor. That's step 1. Does it have 2 terms? No. It has 3 terms, so you have to do a diamond. 1 times 16 is 16, and the middle number is negative 8. So the two side numbers are negative 4 and negative 4. So now we can factor that. This is x minus 4 times x minus 4 equals 0. The two answers are going to be exactly the same. This is x minus 4 equals 0, and so is the second one. So x equals 4. And since the answer is the same for both, you can just write it down once. Okay, example 4. X squared plus 5x plus 6 equals 0. It's not in product form, it's not factored. So you have to factor it first. Step 1, look for a greatest common factor. There isn't one. Step 2, is it a difference of squares? No. Step 3, does it have 3 terms? Yes. So we have to do a diamond. 6 goes on the top, 5 goes on the bottom. The two numbers that multiply to 6 and add up to 5 are 2 and 3. So now I can have my factors. This is x plus 2 times x plus 3 equals 0. And my two answers are, you should now be able to do these in your head. X equals negative 2 because negative 2 plus 2 is 0. And x equals negative 3. That's because negative 3 plus 3 is 0. So these are your two answers. Okay, on the last two examples, the way it's going to be written in the book as well as the CSTs is they'll just say find the roots. So again, this is zero product property. So on example 5, all it will show is the problem, x squared minus 5x, and it will say find the roots. When you see find the roots, you need to make that equal 0. Okay, then you have to factor it. So greatest common factor for both of these is x, and that leaves an x minus 5 equals 0. The two answers that work are x equals 0 and x equals 5. Okay, example 6, again, find the roots. So you have to know to make that equal 0. And then you have to factor it. First you see if there's a greatest common factor. No, there's not. There's two terms, so you have to see if it's a difference of squares. And it's a difference of squares because 4x squared is a perfect square. 25 is a perfect square, and there's a minus in the middle. So how do we get 4x squared? Well, that's 2x times 2x. And how do I get negative 25? That's positive 5 and negative 5. So that's how you factor a difference of squares. Now there's going to be two answers that work. This one is bring the 5 to the other side, so that's negative 5, divided by the 2 in front of the x. And this one is bring the negative 5 to the right side, so that's positive 5 over divided by the 2. So those are the two answers. Negative 5 halves and positive 5 halves.